Welcome to Poets at War, Burnt Marshwiggle, a long-form operation of metaphysics, the nature of reality, and swampy stuff. Today's participants, Joshua David Ling, Michael Bush, and Alexander Robertson.
I'm a burnt marshwiggle, but my spirit's lit. Reality's a riddle, but I won't quit. Imagined or real, I choose what I feel. Narnia in my heart, that's the realest deal. Mandolin melodies.
Recorded in the year of our Lord, October 1st, 2025.
Did that. I've been listening to a book called Boomtown that is
that sounds
a
familiar.
history of... It's a history of Oklahoma City.
Okay.
History
Yeah,
of
that sounds
Oklahoma
vaguely
City.
familiar.
From the founding of OKC to 2017.
Okay.
And it is super, super interesting. Everything from, Oklahoma actually had a relatively large role in the civil rights movement, which I didn't know about.
Yes, they did.
All the way to, the guy who shaped all of Oklahoma City by the name of Stanley Draper. Also, us completely deleting the entirety of downtown that had been built in the early 1900s to replace it with modern skyscrapers and stuff that then just never got built.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Insane stuff. So really good book, really well written. But yeah, super worth reading, especially if you're planning on moving up here at some point in the future. It's really, really fun.
Sounds good. Who wrote it?
I want to say it's something Alexander. I don't remember. I'm looking up right now.
So am I.
Boomtown.
Sam Anderson?
Yep, Sam Anderson. That's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
But really, really good book. Going through the Murrah bombing in 93, all the way to the massive tornado outbreaks in 2013. Just incredible stuff.
Yeah. Oh boy. I've been trying to catch up, but today ended up having to be a bit of a recovery day. Yesterday I was at church 90% of the day, had women's Bible study and a meeting at 3:00, and so I ended up staying the whole time working on the church sound system. I'm really close to finally having the Stream Deck situation all working. I'm basically at this point. So the plugin for Stream Deck, it's not a plugin, but a profile, I guess they technically call it, but it's like a plugin that I have to connect it with Reaper, only allows me to have 8 faders at a time. And the way that it picks up what those faders should connect to is essentially if you are selected in Reaper on one of the first 8 tracks, it will show the first 8 tracks. If you are in the next 8 tracks, it'll show the next 8 tracks. So you basically have one channel selected in Reaper via a hotkey or something like that, right? And then it'll do the first 8, the second 8. I technically have 71. It's going to be somewhere around 75. No, more than that. Probably closer to 85 tracks. And basically, I've organized them in such a way that it makes sense. But now I am trying to get the Stream Deck to jump ahead to a specific channel in order to load that section of all the channels. And basically that's been a little bit fiddly. I'm getting there, but it's not quite behaving how I want, and I'm just going to have to keep messing with it on what exactly is being activated and in what sequence and when by Stream Deck in order to do that. The hotkeys can definitely do that. It's just a matter of I have to kind of finagle with it. So, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I've made a lot more Stream Deck research on my own front too, just playing with it and stuff and getting things going. I got a fairly cheap piece of software called Moom for my Mac, and it does automatic layouts of certain windows. You can save full layouts, and it will resize all the windows accordingly into those layouts. So you can manually set them up, right? And then just hit a button on the Stream Deck and boom, everything gets resized. And then I have Raycast. The thing that's nice with Raycast, technically it can do the window resizing thing too, but I'd have to have the pro version, which is several bucks a month, and there's other stuff with it, but I already have a lot of that stuff on other things. And so I went with Moom because it's a one-time thing. But Raycast, the thing that's really nice is they have something called snippets. Did I tell you about this already?
I think you did.
Basically, all it is it's a permanent copy paste set of text, right?
Yeah.
So you can have a password, you can have other stuff, you can have stream key, you can have a poem, you can have anything, and you can map that to a hotkey, which I can then map to a Stream Deck button, right? And so the goal eventually, I just started looking into mouse macros, which will actually click a certain area of your screen and do stuff, right? The goal eventually is to connect all these things together to where I can just push a button, and eventually I'll have lights that are connected to Stream Deck and stuff too. But the idea is I'll be able to push one or a short sequence of buttons, and they will connect me to all of my live streaming locations, launch the Green Dragon bar, have everything ready to roll, and just I can sit down and do it, you know?
Yeah. Super cool.
Multi-stream into a lot of places. So yeah, and
Yeah.
hopefully have a lot of other stuff kind of, you know, just efficiency and whatnot. So that's really fun.
Yeah. Very cool. Very, very cool.
So I know the ending wasn't as good as the other one on the Hunting of the Dragon that I just sent you. But I can redo the whole song as that second style for the ending, and potentially stitch it in properly later, and that's what I'm going to try to do. But for just the beginning style that it does, I really liked it.
Yeah. I like it. I still think that my favorite version is that first one that you did, though.
Yeah, I figured you'd say that.
Prog rock, like, I just, something about that one specifically, I just vibe with.
Oh, yeah. Yep, it's a really good one. Let's see. What have you been up to as far as, so you've done the Boomtown thing, and you've been looking into Oklahoma City and that kind of stuff in the history. What else have you been reading or learning for fun? Because that seems to be your kick right now. You're doing a lot of learning.
Yeah. I have been digging a lot more into that whole conversation that I have been having with Michael Bush. That Jesse and Ian kind of jumped in on as well. I think Jesse actually started it with Michael. But I'm trying to figure out what exactly I'm wanting to say so that I can give that to him and actually have a discussion, because I'm having trouble pinning down what he's talking about. And so I'm trying to get I'm trying to pull together a decent grasp on like a utilitarian look at different styles, because I know he's a utilitarian. He's specifically said he's a utilitarian before. Well, I mean, he specifically said utilitarianism is the only way to explain what God does. So, like,
right.
He's a utilitarian.
He's a utilitarian in his, let's put it this way. I don't believe, and I don't think you can believe, you can be a Christian and a utilitarian at the same time. They're incompatible belief systems. However, what he has is something that he is calling utilitarianism. I'm not willing to cede the definition.
Fair enough.
So,
but I'm trying to get a like utilitarian grasp on traditional building styles versus modern building styles, and put together an argument for something that I know intuitively, but I'm having trouble figuring out how to prove it, which is that traditional building is more cost effective, especially in the long run. It might be more cost effective in the short term as well. I haven't yet been able to prove that, but especially in the long run, it is way more cost effective, because I work in home repair. I am working in I have been in buildings that were built in the I've been in houses that were built in the 1970s and 80s.
Yeah.
That are absolute trash, because they were built they were built on such an insane scale that they just all quality went out the window. And then on top of that, they weren't maintained properly, because the people who lived in them didn't care about that. I have been in buildings that were built in the 1970s that were maintained properly and also are still falling apart because they were built like trash.
Right.
I've been in houses that were built in the 1950s and the 1930s and the 1910s that have not been maintained properly, but are still standing strong because they were built well. And my argument is going to come down to building well is worth it, I think. But I don't know. As I said, I know this intuitively, but I'm having trouble trying, actually bringing up statistics and facts and sources for this thing that I know deep in my bones and from my experience. And I don't really want to pull this was once revealed to me in a dream citation.
Yeah. So, couple things on the utilitarian side for brutalist architecture type stuff specifically. So I think that with building materials that are more readily mass produced, brutalist actually works well with harder materials for the sake of durability at scale. I don't think beyond that it does well. Now, you still have to pay through the nose to get durability at scale, but it's something that can be more at scale than traditional building processes. So it's more about scale, I think. And then the other factor is interior decorating, not just decorating for the sake of like basically the space between architecture and interior decorating, right? Structural interior stuff. We're talking walls, we're talking doors, non-load bearing walls, doors, etc., etc. When I go to a library, for instance, those places, while they're ugly, are generally built to last a long time. They put a lot of weight and like literal physical weight and effort into everything that is there. the doors are like bulletproof. It's ridiculous, right? And so that style specifically that I see at libraries and stuff, I can see the argument for durability at manufacturable scale, right? Versus the other. But outside of that, I don't see I don't see a I don't see a plus outside of that. And I don't think it necessarily even beats traditional in anything but the exponential cost at scale. Because you can build just as strong traditionally, just as durable, if not more, if you really pour into it. But at scale, that's the hard part, right? And some things need at scale, some things don't. Generally, if you're building a building, it's better to build traditional. I don't think I think you can win that argument with him on a utilitarian level.
Yeah.
If you're building one building, if you're building hundreds of buildings, then you start to have a question cost-wise, right? So I see. Yeah, go ahead. I like traditional better. Don't get me wrong. Just like I love traditional animation better than 3D CG or AI, right? I like 2D animation. That's what I really, really love. I'm not an animator. I've tried to become one over time, and every time I work on it, there's such a law of diminishing returns in animation. No matter what you do, I have found that I need to focus on the skills of voice acting and audio production more so, because that's what is closer to the intersection of my money and my time. But I would probably, if I had unlimited time, I'd probably be a 2D animator,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm not arguing for brutalist architecture on any aesthetic
I know
level,
you're not.
right? Yeah.
I know you're not. I'm just trying to. I don't think, based off of what I have seen in like brutalist buildings that are around me, and what I have seen as far as discourse online about brutalist, and honestly, in all modern buildings, this goes from Frank Lloyd Wright to the Bauhaus. Because Frank Lloyd Wright was kind of the start of architectural modernism, at least in America, as far as I can tell. And going from there all the way to the brutalists in the 60s, who absolutely hated, like Frank Lloyd Wright absolutely hated them. But their buildings all have the same problem. They leak like sieves.
Oh, yeah.
They leak like sieves. The materials are falling apart. Like, concrete isn't a good building material if you're looking for building out past 60 years.
Oh, yeah.
Concrete and glass fall apart real quick. And just trying to put all of the, as I said, trying to get everything that I just feel intrinsically, that I'm very sure of, into like cohesive thoughts is where I'm at. Because on top of what we just said, there's a bunch of adiaphora that I also know is true, but I can't figure out how to slot that in there. Like, if you want to build on to a classically designed or a traditionally built building, it is infinitely easier to build on to a traditionally built building than it is to build on to anything contemporary. And this is contemporary is not brutalist, but like Devon Tower, which is the giant tower in OKC. Devon Tower will never, ever, ever be better than it was in 2012 when it opened.
Right.
It will never be better. It hit its peak the moment the doors opened and will only go downhill from there. The structure will be the structure will eventually degrade. The foundations will eventually crack. The glass will eventually break, and they will have to patch it, and they will never be able to patch it to be exactly as good as it was at that time. Compare that to like the Pearl Brewery in San Antonio. It's a massive brick, like industrial building. It's got a big smokestack, all that. They built onto it because it was brick, and you can build onto brick. And then they built onto it some more. And then, as far as I can tell, the brewery went bust. And the city came in and said, you've effectively got a courtyard here. We're going to turn this into a park.
Right.
And they turned it into a park and built more onto it in that same style. Because you can actually do that. You're never going to be able to do that with a steel and glass box. It just doesn't work. And so that's another thing that I need to try to figure out and work into a cohesive.
Yeah, so you're looking into a lot of very specific details in the weeds on this specific issue of architecture, but it sounds like you think that these are probably tied to universal principles, which is sort of where you're going. Is that correct?
Yes, more or less.
So let's do the analogy thing. Let's take it into another situation with the rough coordinates of the universal principles you have in mind. How would you apply this to, say, something that we're both fond of, but you don't like the title, but you're happy with however you want to say it, content creation, specifically digital content creation? Doesn't matter like what it is, we can talk about all of it. I think that's a broad enough and narrow enough umbrella. I'm interested in this because I think you're right on a lot of levels. And I'm trying to learn what those principles are for myself as well as other people to help them. I just don't know what they are either. So is this one that you can immediately point to? Oh yeah, well there's that principle, there's that principle.
I don't know.
And if that's not a good arena, something else that you might know better. Who knows? Like let's try placing this around and just checking those coordinates, if that makes sense.
I think applying this to like a sphere in the arts, the universal principle that I'm trying to get to is that beauty is worthwhile. Like, even if it is more expensive. Hi, Hazel.
He said hi. Alex said hi. She says hi.
Even if it is more expensive in the short term, that beauty is worth it.
1 second, she's saying something to me. What?
She accidentally knocked over the box of clothes. No, there's a mess, and I'm scared that something fell back the particular come because it's a big mess.
Okay, well you can clean it up. If you need to turn the light on, go ahead. I don't have a problem with that. Is Mama here or not? Okay, just let her know what you're doing. Let her know I said it's okay. All right, go ahead. You can go ahead, Alex.
I also think that it goes back to that thing that we were talking with Ian about, about place mattering, like localism, the literal physical place that you are in does matter. And architecture is kind of the purest form of that, because the places that you live, the places that you work, the places that you visit, like the physical description of those places does matter, and it affects you more than you know.
Right. So is this specifically and exclusively tied to traditional ways and customs, or is this something that is applicable to both innovation and traditions?
I think it's applicable to both, but in different ways. Like,
Okay.
What's the important thing about the traditional methods? Is the important thing about the traditional methods that all the work was done by hand? No.
Right.
That's not the important thing about it. The important
That would
thing
be
about
romance.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Now I will say, if the only way to get that quality is by hand, then like doing it by hand was the important part. But I don't think it is. I think that you
Right.
can do, at least for carpentry, you can do a broadly similar job, maybe losing less than 3% in quality with power tools than you were able to with hand tools. Somewhere around there, that's what my gut tells me there. The important thing is the quality of the work, the quality of the product. How long does it last? How good does it look? Woodworking, absolutely doing it by hand is important. Like, you will not be able to get a dovetail that fits perfectly, just like beautiful, amazing, 100% without doing that by hand. You just
one of the big things with the woodworking.
Hand.
One of the big things with the woodworking is knowing the environment that you're in, knowing the specific type of wood, because if you don't have those, the expansion and contraction of the actual wood becomes a major issue, no matter how you fit everything together. So, like, I'm with you on that. Yeah, go ahead.
That's extremely important there, that you do it by hand with someone who is a master, who knows what they're doing, knows where they are, and can put all these factors together to create a cabinet or a hutch or a chair or something like that. Like, that's incredibly important.
Now, the question then becomes, what is the intention behind the object being created? Because in that regard, I think that if you have a dining hall that you need to fill with 100 chairs, having that many done by hand woodworking and all of them different would be incredible, don't get me wrong, but it might not be feasible in one's lifetime.
Yeah.
Right?
Unless you're like a king or something.
Right. So we're running into product of the fall, and we end up having the question of efficiency. I think that's kind of what we're running into in this, is efficiency becomes at odds with quality if not kept in check. And you perceive, especially in the area of architecture, and I think you're right, a bowing to the god of efficiency over the god of quality, and I'm saying small g's, obviously. And essentially, the quality thing was what, in your mind, that is the better tradition when everything is taken into account.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes. I would say that is fair.
So let me see if I can sum this up. When efficiency and quality are in contention, generally speaking, the quality route is better unless there are extenuating circumstances of sin.
I don't know. Like, quality
Yeah.
and efficiency are always going to be in some form of tension.
Yeah.
This is the entire point of Leaf by Niggle,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you are going to need to find a compromise between the two at some point.
Yes.
With your dining hall analogy, if you need 100 chairs for your dining hall, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, no king who has needed a 100-seat dining hall has ever had a master woodcarver carve every single chair. What they did was they had a master carpenter come in who was able to say, okay, you're in Germany. The types of wood that are around you are primarily evergreen. You've got spruce, you've got pine, you've got fir. You are in a relatively mild climate that does get very cold, so you are going to have some expansion and contraction. So we're going to use your local wood, and we are going to cut it into sheets, and we are going to mass produce a well-crafted chair.
Right.
You can totally do that. You can do mass production well. You can even do mass production with like an assembly line. Well,
yes.
One of the videos that I watched talking about architecture was saying it's really not that expensive to add architectural flourishes in the grand scheme of things, because it wasn't back in the 1950s. It wasn't back in the 1920s whenever we had Art Deco, because what you had was factories who were using assembly line techniques to create these beautiful little flourishy things. Like, these weren't one-off pieces. These were things you could order from a catalog.
Or you could have 100 different interns, and you could have 100 different interns come in and learn that one technique and do it over and over again to start their careers. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
And so, like, you have all of that is also involved in this conversation. We had quality and efficiency, and we just, for some reason, I don't know why, decided to throw those levers completely towards one direction. And I don't. So why did we do that?
So I think there's a fundamental. So I think that you're correct, and you're advocating for an obvious balance. I'm for that, but like the one thing still, I'd say quality actually thrown in if it's thrown the complete opposite end entirely into quality, that would not necessarily be an issue in God's world if it wasn't for sin, right? Sin cutting things short. However, if things were in heaven and we threw everything into the efficiency category, it would be meaningless entirely. It would be absolutely vapid and would have no place in heaven whatsoever. Yeah. So I think that one of the things that one of the reasons I'm pointing to sin as sin is the only thing that makes efficiency a necessary evil. Sin is the only thing that makes efficiency a necessary evil.
Okay.
I wouldn't even call it a necessary evil, except we don't really have a phrase besides that one, because it's not evil, it's not sin to be efficient. Yeah. But it is completely vapid in the light of eternity.
Sin is the only thing that puts efficiency in tension with quality.
Yes.
I think is what you're saying.
Yes. And I think that we forget, because it's so obvious when the lever gets thrown in the efficiency category. This is why I have issues with Wendell Berry kind of thinking, whatever. And the super hyper romantic side of things is because when you throw the lever entirely into the quality category, for real, nothing ever happens and you're not pleasing God. You become the vapid and vain thing, right? The navel gazing. But that's not as obvious to society at large as what happens when you throw everything in the efficiency direction. That becomes something that everybody sees immediately and wants to throw the brakes on. Yeah. This is why we have such a hard, and it's changing slightly because people are starting to realize, like, oh, this could go in some good ways too, and there are other bad ways and other things. I think one of the big things that I think that, and we've talked about this on a fundamental metaphysical level and stuff, but like with AI, do you need to talk to me specifically?
I just wanted to say.
Okay, real quick. It's just Mr. Alex. Say hi.
Hi, Mr. Alex.
Hello, Hazel.
He said hello. You need to get to bed, okay? I love you. We've talked about this with AI, but like I think the fundamental nature of AI being what it is, that we have too low of a view of what conscience really is. And I don't think that we have, let me put it this way, not just consciousness, but also, I believe that a computer and digital and the digital world, so to speak, is fundamentally three things: zeros, yeses, zeros, nos, whatever you want to call them, zeros and ones, and intention. I don't believe that in any way zeros and ones can create what is fundamentally intention. I do believe that it can reproduce intention based upon humanity's intention, but it is entirely zeros and ones still. The only thing that can actually take zeros and ones and infuse it with intention, which is a image of God thing, right, is a human being or God. I don't believe that any other part of nature, including beasts, including trees,
including demons,
including demons, including angels, they are more forces of nature, it appears, as far as scripture is concerned, right? They're not entirely without consciousness, but they are not creators. They are not sub-creators. I believe this is the image of God as shrunk down as I can possibly give it, is intention.
Yeah.
And this is why man being turned and bent and evil corrupts his intention. It says in Genesis, like, the intentions of man were only evil continually, right? When talking about the pre-flood people, right? And so this is why I love Big Hero 6, because when Baymax says Tadashi is here toward the end of the movie, what he's saying is Tadashi's intention is still here and still active in me. Right? Tadashi put his intention into Baymax, and so Tadashi himself is not there, right? But Todashi's intention is absolutely still there and still active and still helping Hiro. And I think that's why it's powerful, right? And so when it comes to the efficiency versus quality argument, I think the balance has to be struck by intention. And the way we judge whether it was a proper balance is by what did you intend it to do? What did you intend it to be? Now that doesn't mean that your intention is good by saying that they achieved their goal of a brutalist architecture, right? Their intention was bad. Their zeros and ones were not. Their zeros and ones were entirely accurate to their intention. You see my point? So
a good process can't save a bad intention, is
Correct.
what you're saying.
Right, because God's intentions supersede our intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have an intention that is not in line with God's intention is hubris and sin. I don't know how you feel about all of that, but as a thing, I'm not saying everything can be boiled down to zeros and ones, but I am saying it's possible. I'm not saying it's entirely accurate, but it is possible that everything can be boiled down to zeros, ones, and intention.
Yeah. So you say that, and that's really interesting. I've been listening to it relates to this book that I've been listening to called A Pattern Language by Christopher Alexander.
Okay.
And he argues, he sounds really, really Rousseauian in at least the first part of the book. But he argues that all architecture and all planning and all design and basically everything that is created in the physical world is made up of a series of patterns.
Okay.
Patterns specifically regarding elements in relation to each other, and each of those elements is also a pattern whenever you get down to it. And you can take this all the way down to literally the atomic level.
Right.
Like atoms are a specific pattern.
Protons,
that type
neutrons,
of thing.
Electrons, all etc. Yeah, for the
Exactly.
cell, for the cell,
Every,
protons, neutrons, electrons, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he goes to the extreme of saying that any person can build a house that is as beautiful as anywhere else you have ever been, simply by following the pattern of what it means to be a house. And the houses are defined by their patterns.
Right.
And any group of people can build a town that is as well laid out as any town you have ever been to, simply by following the pattern of what makes a town.
Okay.
And so you're saying that everything might be able to be reduced down to 1, zeros, and intention. He's saying that everything is able to be reduced down to patterns.
Yes.
The relation of this thing in, or the existence of this thing in relation to the things around it.
Right.
What do you think about that? It seems like you guys are answering, like, these are two different answers to the same question. Not necessarily contradictory, but they are two different answers to the same question.
Yeah, they are two different answers. When I hear patterns, I hear two things: a list of ingredients and sequence, which to me sounds like zeros and ones. I don't hear intention, right? I don't hear intention in patterns. Intention to me is more than just sequence or placement, right? Intention is saving up money to give to your grandchildren. You can affect people through your intention that you never meet.
Yeah.
I can affect change in a person's life whom I never meet through a video online, through a piece of art that I leave in the middle of an alley. And I can intend to find ways to do that. Doesn't mean that I'm going to have my zeros and ones right. Right? Those are actual actions, actual matter, acting on matter in time and in sequence, right? But I don't believe that you can follow a recipe that, let me put it this way. If you are intending to bake lemon muffins and you follow the recipe to make motor oil, obviously you're not going to get lemon muffins, right?
Yeah.
So your intention has to match the recipe. If you're using a recipe, if you're innovating, that's the same as like cooking from scratch, in which case you will need to know what goes into lemon muffins to the best of your ability, or fail thousands of times in order to figure out through engineering what is a good recipe for lemon muffins, right? As far as that goes, God doesn't fail. God knows the answer to all of these equations. And his knowledge supersedes ours. His intention supersedes ours. And so when people say the phrase, not just the sum of the parts, I believe that that thing, that je ne sais quoi, that is not just the sum of the parts, is not only intention of God, although that is primary, but all the secondary intentions of man who have anything to do with that person, that building, architecture, that painting, that town, that whatever it is, right? I have intention that is still in Atlanta. I have intention in Oklahoma. I have intention in Opelousas, right? So like, this is what intention is. Now, intention by itself doesn't do much, hence why I haven't done a lot to affect Oklahoma and Opelousas yet. Right?
Yeah.
The zeros and ones have to be there.
Yeah.
But the opposite is true too. You can be in a place and not actually affect it because you don't intend to affect it. Right? Now, you do affect it somewhat in some ways just by being there, because your body is going to have an effect on the things around it. And I think that's part of the thing that you've been getting at for a while with like localism. It's easier to affect what's in front of you than something that's farther away. And so when you put maximum intention on the area around you, they work in harmony. Right? The zeros and ones and the intention work in harmony.
Yeah.
And so I think that's correct. But I also feel like the amount of time that I spend carving data into my hard drive and then making sure that it's copied many other hard drives all over the internet, including servers where people access every day, does have a minute effect. But information, the whole pen is mightier than the sword thing, I think is actually true, right? I can kill one guy, but I can absolutely devastate an entire country if I write the right thing and put it in a place where everybody sees it, right? So it's a bit more of a lottery, I will give you that, but I think it's real intention and zeros and ones acting in the same manner as they do in person, just not with the same predictability. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something that I knew in my bones growing up because I had a webmaster for a mother in 1995 and I had a father who did DJ work, right? And I did so much stuff with the digital that I was able to see how it affected people because people were sending my mother checks every year when she did a campaign for fundraising for Christian Quote of the Day, which is something she still runs to this day, right? It's just a little ministry, little website that gives Christian quotes of encouragement to people. It was basically a Facebook page before it was a Facebook page. It's a website, right? And so she still runs it as a Facebook page and a website and whatever else she can do. And people sent us real money. I ate because my mother put something on her hard drive and made sure that it was on other hard drives. You see what I'm saying? Right. So that's real. That's a real thing. It's not as predictable as locality, and
Yeah.
predictability is helpful for stability.
It
Right.
it's not as predictable, it's not as stable, it's not as sustainable, and it's not as long term.
What do you mean by long term?
Like, okay, the internet is forever,
Mhm.
but this is talking on a more practical level.
Yeah.
The internet is forever. However, I'm pretty sure that everything that we know as the internet is eventually going to die multiple times before we get something that's actually stable. I think that everything that is on Google's servers is
Mhm.
probably pretty likely to be wiped inside of 100 years.
Okay.
That's what I mean by sustainable. Like, the .com crash.
Well, yeah, I understand sustainable.
Seems like seems like the air example of internet of the unpredictability of the internet. It could
Right.
be here today, it could be gone tomorrow, because that's the nature of something that is so minutely connected to the physical.
Right. So I would say that this is all true, but I feel like it's the long term doesn't fit, because the same exact things that you're describing for Google's servers, for example, could be used to describe London at various points in history. London won't survive. Now, we're not talking about the physical location. We're talking about the city of London.
Yeah.
Right?
But
now,
even
all cities
when
eventually
London
fail.
wouldn't survive,
Mhm. Right.
there still was something there. There was a river.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
yeah, totally. And those are
that's the thing that I'm saying. To put it in your framework, it seems like the internet is almost 100% intention.
Mm-hmm.
It is almost like, whenever you get right down to its core, what is the internet except for a way for people to communicate with one another?
Yes.
Like, that's what the internet is. That's intention. It is it is backed up by servers. It is backed up by GPU clusters. It is backed up by ones and zeros stored on hard drives in the middle of massive farms in the middle of California desert. But at its core, the internet is intention,
Right.
and has very little connection to the physical world.
Yes.
Whenever you work on something that has more of a connection to the physical world, even if everything goes bust and London dies, there's still something there. There's some remnant. There's some touch that you have left that other people can and probably will recognize. That doesn't exist with the internet, I don't believe.
Right. Well, you're correct in that we're writing on sand. We're writing on rocks and sand. And rocks and sand and paper, same thing with paper, just less efficient. Those things, I agree, are not
Don't let
something
Ian hear you say that.
I'm saying they're writing mediums. That's all I'm saying.
And so I know. I just thought that'd be funny.
They're writing mediums, and so my point is this: when it comes to, let's say they disconnect a server, that's still a writable surface in some way, shape, or form until it turns to dust, and then it can be remade again. So as far as that goes, the zeros and ones are not as valuable, but the intention is extremely valuable. Whereas if you're in the desert, the zeros and ones are extremely high, but there's no intentional value. Unless you put so much intention to it, and over time you end up getting Phoenix, right? And so basically, we're created as physical and spiritual creatures, and we're created as intentional creatures. And so basically, and let me be clear, I don't know about demons or angels. The more I think about it, there might be a kind of intention, particularly with Lucifer, or at least he's trying to have an intention.
I'm very certain that with
but I think it's a different
beings,
kind of intention. You know what I mean?
There is some form of intention, yeah.
But I think it's a far different kind of intention than what humans have, because
yes.
even an evil human can accidentally stumble into doing great good for the world through common grace. Yep. There isn't that in another situation.
And the flip side, a good human, a human who wants to do good, can end up doing something terrible.
Yep.
Because that's the nature of the world that we live in.
Right. Right.
Yeah, to use a reference to Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings is obviously infallible scripture. But to use a reference to Lord of the Rings, men and elves and dwarves created things.
Yes.
Those races created things. They made things, they designed things, they built things.
Yep.
Outside of Aule creating the dwarves, Yavanna creating the Ents, or Yavanna having the idea for the Ents.
Right.
And Manwe having the idea for the Eagles. I don't think that there's any not Ainur. I don't think any of the Ainur create anything. I don't think that they ever create anything, because
they create, but it is not intentional. It says that they sang the world into existence, but their song was a response directly to, and in that way, we don't have the exact same intention as God, but our intention, I think, far more mirrors God because of the image. I think that that's what it means for us to be made in His image.
We are sub-creators. You started off by saying that we're stealing from Tolkien entirely here. We're sub-creators. We actually have some form of intentionality and secondary causality to us. The Ainur are more like tools.
Yeah.
In Iluvatar's hands, and
they're infrastructural forces of nature.
To Melkor. Yeah, he specifically says that to Melkor whenever Melkor is singing his discordant theme, and he says, "Do you not know that you shall prove but mine instrument in the devising of greater themes than you could possibly imagine?"
Exactly.
Paraphrase my own. But he literally tells them that they are tools.
Yes. And so when it comes to human intentionality, I think this is where we can rightly say things as hubristic, that's not a word, but you know what I mean, as they are. We can live in a world that we design, Greatest Showman, right? It's not that we're designing the primary elements, like Tolkien says. We're devising secondary things from the primary elements. But our intention is what shapes the world on a day-to-day basis in small levels. And so the thing that I and you constantly push at in, this kind of localism versus like digital, I think my whole thing this entire time, what I've been trying to say, and I think this is really getting to it finally, is I don't want to forget intentionality for the sake of zeros and ones, and I don't want to forget zeros and ones for the sake of intentionality. We have to have a balance. And when God gives you a world and a life where most of your situation is fully intentionality, me, Ian, Brendan, that's one of those things where we're trying to have effect on the zeros and the ones, and we just can't seem to do it. And then I'm seeing folks that want to have effect on intention and can't seem to do it. Not you necessarily. You're pretty happy in your case, it seems. You know, you feel like you're following what God wants you to be as a created being, for the most part. And so the question then becomes, is well, obviously, I think discontent is a way that God tends to show this to people, right? There is discontent for unrighteous reasons, but a righteous discontent is usually telling you you're either not paying enough attention to the zeros and ones, the place where you are, the things that you are physically doing, the things that you are physically affecting on a regular everyday basis, or your intentions are wrong and you need to reevaluate and change your intentions and what it is you're doing, right? Your priorities, your loves, your mind, right? And so I think that the return in a lot of ways with Christian nationalism and localism and other things of that nature to a more grounded reality overall makes total sense. But I am seeing with the pendulum swing, people letting their intentionality and their minds fall out of their ears.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the thing that I'm trying to warn people of and be careful of is, yes, we need to return to physical reality. And yes, I am in more of an intentional field when it comes to like my calling and what I do, but I have to make sure that my zeros and ones are lining up too.
Nobody talks about Jesus' real miracle being having 12 friends in his 30s.
Yeah, right.
Like that wasn't an oddity back then.
Yeah.
Like it's different things
it's Michael
that we
Bush.
have. It's hey, Michael Bush.
Hello, Oklahoman.
Your conversation with Alex and Jesse on brutalism and stuff is fueling everything we're talking about right now.
Yes.
I wondered about that. I did expect it to go so far.
It was cool though. I was enjoying what I was seeing. I didn't read it at all, but I was enjoying what I was seeing. So, and I knew that none of y'all were going to get angry.
Talk to you about. I definitely want to actually talk to you about what your thoughts are and see if I can see if we can get some more conversation going on that. I'm super excited.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is like, my bias is always going to be to reach for like economic, like sort of natural explanations, because I think to sort of understand the world, we have to kind of understand the way these people would describe themselves when they make these choices. And the majority of them do not describe themselves, albeit a minority do describe themselves this way, but the majority do not describe themselves as like opposed to traditional architecture or anything of that sort.
The majority of who?
People who design and build these kind of buildings. Yeah.
Okay, so particularly the designers now or the designers whenever the concepts were being created?
Now.
Okay, the designers now I would agree with. I think whenever you go back to the origin of the styles, there's way more percentage-wise of them saying down with the old, in with the new. A specific antipathy towards tradition.
It's definitely more prominent in their writings. I don't know if like all the writings defending it come from that era, I guess. So
yeah. So that's where I'm coming from as far as that goes. You said your bias is towards the economic. My bias is towards the historical. I'm always going to want to go back to the beginning of this thing to see, okay, what did the founders think about this? What did the people who created this think about it? How did they defend it? What was their rationality for it? If there was a flaw there, there's probably a flaw now. That's my bias.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's not necessarily a wrong way to do it. I mean, like you're definitely going to find people who are talking that way. Like they're definitely out there. Is that the reason it became the dominant form of architecture for a while? That's hard to say.
Yeah, like giving an actual why to why anything became dominant is such a massive undertaking. I mean, that's why you have books that are over 1,000 pages long talking about this stuff, because it's saying, okay, what were the factors of, like, what is that book series that is tackling each year from 1950 onward? Like, it's trying to say, okay, what is the biography of all of these years? What happened? And they're all over like 700 pages.
I've heard of that series, and I flipped through it at the library. Like they had a whole shelf of those books once. And I flipped through them, and it was really interesting. And I want to own it someday, but I haven't bought it yet.
Yeah, but like, of course, you're right in saying that the actual reason that something became dominant is far more complex. The question that Jesse and I were getting at, though, is what does this particular architectural style, this movement, say about us? Like, why did this become dominant, and what does not so much why did this become dominant, but because this came dominant, why? What does that say about the culture that did it?
Yeah,
that's the question we were asking.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
That I mean, that's gonna be an explanation I'm gonna be always be skeptical of, because it's.
Bring me the speaker. Sorry, guys, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm always been skeptical of trying to explain what that says about, like, us as a culture, quote unquote, because my first reaction to that is, well, it doesn't say anything about me. I didn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah. So I would say that it does have something to say about the culture, in the same way that, like, you can say we landed on the moon. Like, we as America landed on the moon.
Right, but I do that explicitly for propaganda purposes, to appropriate the accomplishments of other people to lift myself up. Like, that's that's what I'm doing when I say we landed on the moon.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I say that as a legitimate, like, statement of covenantal connection. Like, gotcha. We are connected to that past, and that to a certain, like, we are connected to that past, both the good and the bad. Like, we perpetuated the Trail of Tears.
Mm-hmm.
That's a thing that we did as America.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurts to say, because I live in Oklahoma. Yeah. I live in the place where all the people who got Trail of Teared.
All of the people from my neck of the woods went to your neck of the woods.
Exactly, and you're going to be the latest one eventually.
Yeah, that Lord willing, yes. But yeah,
but that's what I'm saying whenever I am talking about the history and what does that say about us. Like, I have a covenantal connection to these people. What does that say about us?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that, again, we're gonna draw the area where, again, I'm skeptical of that sort of covenantal connection idea. Like, I mean, okay, there is some sense in which I'm connected to those people, but also I'm not connected to those people at all, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because like literally, I'm thinking of the past 6 or 7 times I said we landed on the moon, and every single time it was to dunk on a European, right? So every single time when I said that, it was specifically to appropriate someone else's accomplishments for myself. It's not like that. That's literally what I'm doing when I say that. So I don't know.
See, the last 6 or 7 times I said it was to an American, reminding them of, like, this is what we've done.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Press forward, do more. This is the history that you came from. We got to do something better.
Yeah.
So
you want to
this very much might just be like a difference between your metaphysic and mine.
Yeah.
You were saying, Joshua?
I was just gonna say, bring up the zeros, ones, and intention idea that I kind of posited earlier when we were talking. We talked a little bit about the architecture thing. I was trying to understand what he was looking for when it came to proofs for his argument. And I was trying to do it by applying it to other areas as analogy, not just architecture. And what I kind of came to, and this has been something that he and I have had very, very slight disagreements on in the past, but they've really come down to localism on his side in a lot of ways, really, really staunch localism. Versus I tend to be a little bit more utilitarian when it comes to digital in-person, obviously not with things like church services and things that we're commanded to do in person. But things like AI and other things like that. And one of the things that I have come to is this idea that not all things can be boiled down to zeros and ones binary, but the sum of their parts would ultimately be, there's some of their parts in an actual whole would look something like zeros, ones, and intention. And intention would be everything that anyone had intention for as a human being, like on that object or person or building or whatever, if we're talking architecture, but also God's ultimate and superseding intention over all of it, right? And so that would be the thing in whole, if you were to break it down to its most basic parts. And so zeros and ones is everything about its physicality, about its material, about all of those sorts of things. And then the way they actually fit together would come down to intention. And I believe this is tied to image of God. What it really means to be human is more of a volitional intention in my mind than it is specifically intelligence or speech or other things people tie to it, you know. I don't know how you feel about any of that, but that to me was one of the first things that came to mind when putting brutalism against traditional building is we only have efficiency because of the fall. Efficiency is only a question because of the fall. Quality is something God said from the beginning, this is good, right?
What do you mean? What do you mean by efficiency?
Efficiency, as in, it's not a bad thing, but it's a thing when you are attempting to make something quality or efficient, as in, like, say you have a dining hall and you need 100 chairs for it. You can have one guy try to make them all by hand carved and different types and different woods, but that might take his whole entire life versus doing an utter mass production with no frills whatsoever, or a happy medium somewhere in between, right? He gets the interns to do a whole bunch of them, whatever. And so the only reason efficiency is even a question is because of the fall, because we're going to die one day, because time works against us. Whereas quality is something that is more transcendent and lasting. But if you go for full quality in a world with sin, you're never going to get anything done. And if you slam it all the way into efficiency mode, you get brutalist architecture and other sorts of things where it may be extremely efficient, it might even last, and it might even be somewhere in the middle as opposed to on the end. But the point is, you get something that's not made to last, right? So if you slam it fully in the other direction, right? So that's kind of a summary of what we talked about, right? And just analyzing things based on God's the way God has made the world and how intention, what is the thing for, right? Is this a dining hall where we're literally going to do it once? If we're doing it once, why don't we just get hay bales? Right. We slap some hay bales together. We have a ton of hay, right? And we have balers. Let's just do that, right? As opposed to this is that we want this hall to last for 10,000 years. Okay, well, we might want to do something better than wood, or find a way to impregnate wood in some kind of way to make it last a really long time, right?
Yeah.
And so this is where we're at. What is the intention? Intention tells you where on that spectrum you should be.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. I'm especially interested in your idea that the trade-off between efficiency and beauty is a result of the fall, because I think that's a place I might also disagree. To me, the trade-off exists anytime people have needs. Like even before the fall, you probably still need a house to live in, right?
Sure.
And so there's and your ability to have that house is dependent on the human ability to make it with labor.
So question.
Yeah.
Do you believe humans, unfallen humans, could die from not natural causes of age, obviously, but of like the elves? Do you believe that's the case? Like they could die by negligence.
I genuinely have no idea how long-term a society of unfallen Adams and Eves could have worked, even in theory.
Right.
I've thought about it, and nothing I can come up with makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say,
hard.
Yeah. So I'm just going to, So I'm just going to say, honestly, God probably never intended for that to work out long-term anyway, and move on.
Calvinism.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I genuinely have no idea. I think the world makes a little more sense, as I understand it, if they could, but I'm not sure that biblically that makes a lot of sense.
Right. And so my whole point is, if they couldn't die, which is more of my take, then any needs are a result of the fall outside of God himself.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't say needs. I would say urgency.
Yeah, sure. Urgencies. I'm fine with that.
There's definitely a lot less urgency, but I mean, even if they don't need it, I mean, it might be more interesting and comfortable to live under a roof, and they're still eating food. Like that's what gets me. Like they're unfallen, there's no death, but they're still eating food. Like, well, what's that for? It's confusing. I don't really. Yeah.
Well, it's possible that was purely for pleasure. I'm not necessarily going that far, but it's thoroughly possible. I mean, God, why did God create everything? For his own pleasure, and we're made in his image. So, but this is where we bump into all the belly button questions. Did Adam and Eve have belly button type questions? So I'm with you in that efficiency is helpful to man. I'm not saying that it isn't helpful to man, regardless of possibly even regardless of fall, but I'm saying generally speaking, efficiency's purpose, the intention behind creating efficiencies is to circumvent the fall 99 times out of 100.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The way that I put it earlier is that the only thing that puts efficiency in tension with quality is the fall.
I mean,
because they can work harmoniously together. Like necessity is the mother of invention and all of that jazz. But the only thing that puts them at odds, if I want to build an immaculately well-crafted house, that's going to take a really long time, and I'm probably never going to be able to live in it, because getting all of your, I say this as someone who works in home repair, getting all of your angles to stay at 90 degrees is really, really, really tough. But that's the thing that puts that, the fact that I'm going to die someday is what puts that quality in tension with efficiency. I have to finish someday.
Yeah, the time thing is real. Like even before the fall, you only have 24 hours in a given day to do work in, right? And obviously, you're only going to work at most 6 days out of 7. So,
right. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
But if you have an unlimited number of those, it can wait for the next day 90% of the time.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. Interesting thought project.
Yeah. Well, thanks for weighing in on it. I appreciate it. The thing when it comes to like digital versus in-person stuff, what I kind of came to was in-person stuff is more predictable. When especially in social circles and that sort of a thing, you have more of a predictable form of control, whereas digital and internet and all the other sorts of things, it is more of a lottery, but it is really you have less zeros and ones that you're dealing with when it comes to actual material, your actual physical material being written upon, sand and rocks and paper, et cetera, because books are in this category too, even though it's not technically digital, it's informational, and so those things are not as valuable in and of themselves as something like the Thames River is for London. He brought that up, right? But London itself is both an idea and it's situated in a place, just like all data. I think the idea of cloud computing has kind of thrown people off to think of data as ethereal and not part of an actual server. And I think that reminding people that all zeros and ones are somewhere written on sand, compressed sand somewhere, right? Is a reality. It's part of God's reality. Everything has, physical form outside of the spiritual world, right? And the spiritual world, God has written a whole lot less about to us, and basically says, trust me on a lot of it. And so, yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it is, my mom, I told him, one of the reasons I'm so gung-ho on digital in general, I still do a lot of in-person stuff, and I'm trying to do more, because it is more stable, and it is more, especially where we're at now in society. But I see the pendulum swing with all the conservatives going, yeah, everything needs to be hard and concrete. These are the localism, Christian nationalist sort of thing, and there's no room for the intellectual.
As far as I can tell, only about a third of the Christian nationalists actually care about localism. A lot of them are just completely insane.
Oh, totally. I'm with you. And as this is coming from two theonomists, basically. Like, I don't know if you specifically claim theonomy, Alex, but probably. But
no, I hate God's law.
Oh boy. But basically, like, to me, the thing that really proves it for me is my mother was a webmaster in the mid-90s. And she created ChristianQuote.com and several other places. And Christian Quote was a big one because she would run a campaign every year that was just a fundraiser for the site. And I would eat because of the checks that were brought in. Right? I was physically affected by a website. As a child, right? Not everyone had that direct an experience, but my lived experience says very clearly that if you write enough good things on the pieces of sand, good things can come from that. Not just in my own life, but in other people's lives. Right. So, yeah. But that was the other thing that we had talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
So what you been up to?
Well, I worked today. This weekend, I'm going on a camping trip to Tennessee.
Nice.
So that's gonna be fun.
What part?
Cool.
It's near Chattanooga. I'm going with some people from church. So
I'm going to be in Tennessee later this month.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, really? Where are you going to be in Tennessee?
Nashville. Going to FLF.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, it's up there. I've been
in Rocket Town this year.
That's right. They're actually going back to where it should have been for the first one.
Yep.
Oh boy. But man, if I had a good vehicle right now, I would absolutely just jump up there and say hi to y'all,
Yep.
Oh man. So still working on that though. Let's see. So you got a camping trip coming up. How's work been?
It's been all right. found a really very interesting problem in our system involving somebody changing their name at marriage, and it only propagating through like half the systems we use. And so fixing that is going to be interesting. Not quite sure what we're going to do there, but we'll figure something out.
It's so odd to me that systems work like that. Not just computer systems like the ones that you're dealing with, but like you can legally change your name at the state level, and the state doesn't tell the federal government. Right. You have to go tell the federal government yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so weird to me.
Yep.
Well, in the case of the government, it's probably for the best. I'm not sure we want to live in a world where all that information is perfectly communicated right away.
Yeah,
that's possible. Yeah. Especially for other things besides names. I feel like names are one of those things that they're a little more ubiquitous than other forms of data, but because our government wants to, have all or nothing on everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy.
I mean,
so right now
the government already has any data that they want.
Yep.
So
under threat of guns.
If they could just if they could just say what?
Under threat of guns.
Yeah. Well, no. Like, I had a situation recently where a friend of mine is working in his job that connects with the federal government at a relatively high level. And they were bringing up conversations that he had with me at my house. The only other person in the house was my wife. We were not contacted. And they knew about the conversation that we had had.
Well, hang on. I want to hear more about this. Like, first of all, what's the conversation about?
The conversation was about a job that he had done, or some not insider information, but information that's kind of difficult to access that he had about some dealings that his employer had previously done.
Okay.
And the government, I don't remember which department he said it was, but the guys from the Fed who were interviewing him had him hooked up to a polygraph and were asking him questions about this particular conversation that we had had.
How sure is he that it was about the specific conversation and not questions that were calculated to catch people who might generally have had conversations like that?
They gave him timestamps and a location.
Interesting.
So the government already has any data that they want.
Right.
Why can't they just give some of the benefits of that data, let that trickle down? If they know that we've switched, if they know that the name has changed.
Was this conversation in person?
Yes, this conversation was in person.
Verbal?
Verbal.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Yep. Are you sure your friend is telling the truth?
Say what?
Are you sure your friend is telling the truth?
I am 100% sure that he is telling the truth. With zero possibility of him. No possible way that he was lying. I trust this man with my life.
Okay.
My point was under threat of gun, meaning if they don't have it, that's how they'll get it. That was the only reason I brought up under threat of guns, because they still for some reason make a big show of get when someone has a locked up iPhone and they shot a bunch of people, they've got to make Apple open it, that kind of a thing. So
yep, which I believe Apple still hasn't done. I won't swear to that though. I know that there was a big I know that there was a big controversy with them almost doing it, but I don't remember if they actually did.
I don't think that one they did, but I think there was one after that where they did. I think they play it case by case, So, but yeah, so that's fun. Oh boy.
Yep.
This is yet another reason to live before all men like you live before God 24/7. to the best of your ability. This is the do you I don't remember. Alex might remember Judy Rogers. Do either of you remember Judy Rogers? She did a lot of not just children's music but other Christian music during the 80s and 90s.
I don't think I know her.
Okay. Joe Morecraft's sister-in-law. Basically,
You told me about her.
Yeah. She sang at my mom and dad's wedding. Anyway, Joe Morecraft was the preacher I grew up under, Michael, just so you know if you don't know the name. But she has a song that got sung a lot in my home growing up that is really, really good for kids to teach omniscience of God. And the lyrics are, I'm hiding from mommy and no one can see. I'm hiding and no one will know. But I just remember that God's watching me. He knows everything that I do. I cannot see God, but he always sees me. Nothing can be hid from God. Second verse, there's only two. When dad says goodnight and he turns out the light and darkness is covering me, I think about God who can see through the night and thank him he's caring for me. I cannot see God, but he always sees me. Nothing can be hid from God. I love that because it's like a warning at the beginning verse and then like, comfort at the second verse. And it really shows God's omniscience on a child's level in a really clear and focused way that you're just like, that's really cool. He's watching me right now. Right? So I just really appreciate that song, and I appreciated that it was given to me as a young kid because I'm not worried on a guilt level most of the time of being brought up, those things being brought up by government agents to take me down, right? Because if I go down for righteous reasons, there you go, right? And so obviously we all do things when we think no one's looking that are problematic. That's part of sin. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't. But generally living in such a way where you're not worried about everyone's all up in my business and stealing my privacy and rah. It is so helpful and peaceful compared to what a lot of people go through. Because I can hear all the stuff that Alex said, but be happy and thankful that if I go down for righteous reasons, I don't have to worry,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
It still makes me upset to think about data being taken and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
It's still wrong. Like, you should still feel the injustice of it all, for sure. Like, I'm not saying anything
Righteous
against
indignation.
that. Righteous indignation, but also at the same time, come at me, bro. Don't. But like, if you do, you're messing with God. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to worry. So, boy. Let's see, what time is it? I got about 22 minutes, and then I got to read 55-ish pages tonight on Founders, and then I'll have it all recorded, and it's just editing from there.
What's this book?
The Law for the Lawless. It is let me see who wrote it. I forget. Pulling it up. Let's see. Author. David Mitzenmacher. Forward by Thomas Askell. It's a natural law argument for the second use of the moral law.
Second use being
the to restrain evil in civil society.
Okay, got it.
Okay. That's not. I didn't know that was the kind of thing you needed to make a natural law argument for, but I'm glad someone's doing it, I guess.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like, the natural law guys versus the sort of presuppositionalist, Van Til guys on this thing, and how they really are saying almost the exact same thing, but they want to come at it from different angles historically and different like ways of talking for seemingly insignificant reasons most of the time. Sometimes it matters. But I don't know, man. To me, like, because God is transcendent and above all things, I want to argue from that, regardless of how I want to ultimately base my thesis in that, even if I have to bring in other evidence, instead of rooting it in my lived experience or a vast numerical statistic of human experience. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I get the people who make natural law arguments, and I actually agree with most people who are, traditional natural law reasoners, I guess you would call it. But the way they talk about it to me always seems to kind of come back to this logic of, if I can see it plainly in reality and express what I am seeing reasonably through my five senses, it's all enlightenment sort of minded thing, even though this goes back before enlightenment to the Middle Ages. I think it's all very reasonable, but if it goes, you can reason all kinds of things from vast swaths of human experience, such as there are people who are doing that, saying that the Jews have always been a contentious people. Mm-hmm. Right, like, and things of that nature, and they're doing it in ridiculous ways that generally contradict what God says in Scripture. Not saying specifically about Jews, but like the you can reason all kinds of things.
It would be
from
something
nature.
like an argument that proves too much.
Right. Yeah. And so for me, like, the way I want to root stuff is, well, did God say it that way? Did he say it that way in Scripture? Not just a proof text, but you can make the argument from Scripture by implication as well, that sort of a thing. And obviously a proof text is more valuable in most of those circumstances than reasoning, but it becomes more weighted when you have multiple verses that back you up, and less opposing arguments from Scripture. So I want to argue from Scripture because it's the ultimate standard, versus arguing from experience, whether it's mine or others or some combination thereof. And so I appreciate natural law arguments. I think they're good and great and wonderful, and most of the ones who are well-intentioned are trying to argue from the way God made the world, which is good, but you can justify so much so quickly.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. I told this story in the Brood before, but I know a deist who basically claims that homosexuality is morally right on the basis of natural law arguments.
Yeah.
Yep. Because and his argument is basically that it's basically a version of love is love, and the natural law argument is probably about showing how love is good and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of thing, like you're saying, does lend me some skepticism of natural law.
Yeah. And so
again, it's just an argument that proves too much. If you're looking at nature that is fallen, you have at least a possibility of getting some false.
Well, you have fallen eyes too.
Yeah.
You have fallen senses, And so you could be wrong about Scripture. You can be wrong reasoning from Scripture, but Scripture doesn't change. It's you that's wrong, Nature is a double-edged sword. You can be wrong on both ends. You can be wrong. The world can be wrong, and you can be wrong.
Yeah.
Is it too much to ask for both?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh,
But-
boy.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
You could have both, but only for like $400.
No, that's too much to ask for both.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Oh boy, that's funny.
but yeah.
That's funny.
Okay,
This has been a
Michael.
Yeah, go ahead.
Off chance.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of a book called either A Pattern Language or A Timeless Way of Building, or The Timeless Way of Building?
I feel like I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
Okay. It's a really interesting book. I don't think you would generally agree with it. I don't think that I generally agree with it, but it's really interesting. It's by this architect from the 1970s who was pushing against brutalism, contemporary design, modernism, all that, way before it was cool. And he argues that every beautiful building, and in fact, everything that is designed, is nothing more than a generation of particular patterns of relationships between things. So, like, a house is a relationship between the rooms of the house, and a room is the relationship between the elements, and the elements are a relationship of the materials, and the materials are all the way down.
Okay,
I thought it's a really interesting book that I'm going back through and re-listening to, and I just wondered if you had heard of it or had any thoughts on it. If you haven't, then it might be something that you find interesting. But
Yeah, it does sound interesting. Maybe I'll check it out. Yeah, no, I'm not familiar with that one specifically. I have a while back I found this blog post, this random Substack writer, where he was like, he's like, I've cracked the code of beauty. All beauty is about these 15 characteristics. And at the time I read it, I was like, holy crap, this is brilliant. This may actually be a description of what beauty fundamentally is. And then, of course, I lost the post, and now I can't find it again, no matter how hard I try.
No.
It was by some random Substacker, and I'm like, holy crap, this random guy has actually figured it out.
They got him. They listened in on the conversations and they got him.
There's got to be like a subreddit dedicated to finding a Substack article that you lost, right?
I bet there is. I'll have to look into that. Yeah, but if I find that again, I will definitely share it with you guys. It's super interesting because he breaks down. He like in the article, he like literally takes works of art and breaks down the places they do or don't comply with these 15 like characteristics he has, and is like, and this is why it's ugly, or this is why it's not ugly, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's like a hero's journey sort of a thing for beauty, like aesthetic
Right.
beauty.
Except some random guy wrote it on Substack, and I'm like, this is really
Oh boy, that's funny.
Yep.
That's funny. Let's see.
Well, it's on one of Amazon's servers somewhere.
More than likely. Let me see. So if I'm right, Alex, Michael, about the zeros, ones, and intention idea, how would one apply this to how would one rightly apply what I'm doing specifically with my content creation and community? That's something that I'm constantly questioning, but I'm interested on y'all's thoughts on that specifically. Like, if everything I'm saying about zeros, ones, and intention is true, and what I intend overall is obvious to you guys, I can clarify as needed, but I think it's fairly obvious. How then should I go about both the quality and efficiency argument, but then like how does that work out in practical details? And you can give any, for instance, like what would a YouTube strategy look like for something if what I'm saying is true, and these are the factors that place my efficiency quality thing on a spectrum?
Excellent question. The thing that occurs to me is how often you put out content. It seems like under this view, you should put out content like pretty regularly and pretty often. And I think it's also conventional wisdom in these things. That's not especially novel, but I do think it's implied by your idea.
So, in that regard, let's say like what I've been doing lately is days where I actually have the availability. I'm putting out a short. And I'm currently doing a once a month big picture, like big podcast that's essentially a not a documentary, but like almost like a podcast documentary where all these recordings that we do, that I'm doing on these every week are being cut up in a way that makes sense, that is documenting the journey of the whole group. Right? And so I'm taking clips from the previous episode and and promoting the previous episode. And a big thing that reason I did this is because I'm trying to put more emphasis on fiction, particularly the fiction that and not just fiction but just art that all of us are creating. And in so doing that, I'm embedding it in the nonfiction podcast in various places. We haven't had as much yet, but it seems like we're starting to get a little bit more with this challenge thing Brendan has going, which is pretty cool. And yeah, basically like that was the big change for me, is like I can do this nonfiction stuff all day, but that's not the point. The intention behind it is to actually be inklings and putting stuff out and then documenting it as we go. So
how long is the podcast put out on a monthly basis?
I've only done it once so far. And it was it's, keep in mind, it is chaptered and stuff in such a way that it's easy to access, and each segment kind of has its own feed on Spotify. So if you just wanted the broadcast, you could do that. And so but the last one was 3 hours 47 minutes and 23 seconds, which is not terrible, because I cut it down a lot, right? Like
that's way more than the amount of conversations we have. And and if you've got all bookmarked and stuff, I don't know. I get to sort of an empirical question of whether it's better to put out shorter content more often or longer content less often. I don't know what the market is looking for on that score.
The answer for basically all of YouTube's history has been, it depends.
That's helpful.
Because some people put out monthly videos that are 45 minutes long, and some people put out 5 videos a day that are 5 minutes long. And it works for both of those people.
And I've been gaining traction doing it this way, and doing shorts on the days that I have the brain space and time to do it. My shorts have actually been through the roof, which have been really good.
Cool.
I'm putting a lot more effort into the shorts as a result of less work on the long form, in editing and quality. And so that's done well. But the other thing that's on my brain too that I want to do in the future, obviously I'll have a button where we start talking about something I want to edit out later or whatever. I press a button and get out of it. But the idea would be that I could actually stream these things and multi-stream them to multiple locations. And those will be unlisted VODs later on, right? Like they be something that you, unless you had the link when first watched it, you're not going to find it again, right? But it would be something where hopefully that would show up for people who are looking through, there's ways of discoverability for lives and stuff like that. And so, and YouTube, as far as I've seen recently, they seem to really be interested in people. If they're not interested in your topic, which they are extremely not interested in my topic, then they and if they're not interested in you because you're not a DEI hire, then they want you doing everything.
Mhm.
Shorts, lives, long form.
Mhm.
Right? And so I'm working toward that, but at the same time I'm not changing anything in my fiction, in my art, and ultimately in what I want to do with the group and the promotion of the group, right? Nonfiction is less of an issue to me. I have less intention in my nonfiction than I do in my fiction, but I have some things that are, you cannot, like, I'm going to do this no matter what, right? When it comes to, like, I want to show the whole group. I want to show people. I want there to be regular characters. I want people to, appreciate the journey of the insane loneliness and friendships that are formed in the battles to actually create something worthwhile, and if I can do that, I really don't care if it's shorts or long form or whatever, so long as I get to hang out with my friends and document it and put it out, right?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it sounds like you're doing a lot of cool stuff. And that's not really, and I really don't know anything about the field you're trying to engage in here. I've never really tried to build an online audience. So,
right.
Yeah, so I know nothing, but I think it's very neat. And if I can help some way beyond just showing up and trying to be interesting for the people, I will.
Yeah. And it's been good. I've just what we've been able to talk about tonight is so edifying just on a personal level,
Cool.
Being able to talk with both of you. You guys are two of the more, and I don't say this in a flattering way. I just mean it in a straight up facts sort of way. You're more cerebral and more intelligent. You want to actually like deeply engage in conversation. And yeah, you have humor, especially you, Michael, and so like there's that too. But like,
thanks.
We like thinking deeply, Yeah, I know you're funny, but yeah, it's not what you lead with. Michael, Michael likes to change back and forth between extremely deep Burnt Marshwiggle
I know
stuff.
the thing you're saying. I was giving you a hard time and trying to be funny and obviously failing.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Takes practice. You'll get there eventually.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh boy, but yeah. Well, that's helpful. Just thinking through it. This is something Alex knows about me. I'm constantly questioning my intentions. Some people think I never question my intentions. I am always questioning my intentions to the point where it's almost
I think anybody who doesn't know you're always questioning your intentions is really not paying attention to you. But
yeah,
maybe they don't know you as well.
All it requires is scrolling through your YouTube channel's video section, and okay, it's cleaned up a lot now. But before that, before you cleaned it up, scroll through the videos section, and you can see at least 5 different strategies in the last 3 years.
Oh yeah,
like the saying that you don't ever like question what you're doing is insane. Almost medically insane. Like you're just not looking at it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh boy. Well, I am about to head on. If you guys want to sit and talk, you can. If you got to go, that's fine. I appreciate y'all being here and everything.
I need to go too.
All right. Well, nice talking to y'all.
Yeah, nice talking with you as well. Great to actually have this discussion with you, not in person, but with our voices, because I really hate saying my thoughts over text.
Yeah. Well, it's good to hear from you as well. So I'm sure we'll talk again.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all have a great night.
You too can be a part of Poets at War and the Brood. Just visit joshuadavidling.com/discord to join. We want you, soldier, to be part of the Poets at War family. For more information, visit joshuadavidling.com. Over and out.
God of sunset.